All right, this is my watch list for Tuesday. Best Buy. Now, the chart isn't that much to look at. I mean, you had a long base down here after the gap down. It's been working its way higher ever since. Hit the 200-day, fell back, and now it's kind of, it had a big day actually about 4 days ago, and it's really just kind of chopping around. But switch to 15-minute candles, and you kind of see this afternoon, here's that big day. This afternoon, all of a sudden, it got a big volume pop. And so it's interesting to me, when you see the daily, you really don't have much to see. And switch to 15s and you can see the late day rally. So I'm going to take a long in this one on Tuesday, as long as all the other parameters are met, at 30.24. In other words, if it takes out Monday's high. It does have some room to run to the left. So BBY is on watch. GNC came down to support here. And then found some buyers on an intraday basis. If I switch to 5-minute candles, you can kind of see a little rounded bottom there. And closed fairly strong. So I'll be looking for some continuation. Again, GNC is just really in a range here. I've already got the one line down there, but it's just in a range after you had this gap down. And it was in a range, and then now you gap down again, but it's holding up okay. So either it's going to roll over and tank, or it might start heading back up toward the highs of this range. So anyway, I'm going to be watching this for a long on Tuesday. I mean, it definitely like it over today's high, over 34.35, but it might give a different kind of entry as well. So it depends on how the market opens and how this thing trades. But a little cheaper one, MVIS. I still have been talking about this one in a lot of videos lately. Still think this one's poised to rip higher one of these days, because you had this huge move back here, then you had a gap up that gave a lower high, and it's just been grinding higher, putting in higher lows, slightly higher highs, some nice volume pops lately. So like this one over today's high. One of these days it might just rip. Kind of reminds me a little bit of XGTI, another cheapie that also is kind of putting in higher lows. And got a small trade in this one today, but it didn't quite rip. I still think one of these days it might. Had this move back to 5, lower high, then a nice base, then it took out this high briefly, putting in a little bit of a higher base. So this one could take off one of these days. I say this in every video. It doesn't cost you anything to put it on a chart. So I have that one on a chart almost every day. Same with MVIS, KNDI. Certain ones I always watch. GME. Talked about this in the video last night. It kind of had a little pop on Friday, hit the 200-day, inside day today, so I don't have any kind of trigger. I mean, I like it over this 43.24 area, which would be a break of today's high. You have Friday's high just above that as another catalyst, so this one's on watch. PLUG had this one on watch going into today. I said I liked it over last week's high, which was over 512. I'll show you what we did with it today. It gapped up a little bit, which isn't surprising. Went to 520. These are 2-minute candles. And as this green one started to form, I turned the projector on so it showed up on everybody in the chat rooms on their screens. And I jumped on the mic and said I like it over this green candle, which was 514 with a stop at 505. I said that might be enough to get us through the high of the day. And over the high of the day, this looks fantastic. So I said all that, and then it did just that. So I'll switch to 5 so you can see it better. So we got in, before it broke the early high, which I like, and then the momentum carried it, and we were never underwater. So 514, stop was less than a dime, and had a really nice percentage gain, went all the way to 575. This one goes back on watch tomorrow because it could continue and start to squeeze. You could argue that it was squeezing today a little bit, right? So this one, after this crazy move and then came down, it's been in a range now for 2.5 months, and so now it's breaking out of that range. So this could certainly be multi-day. I didn't hold any overnight because I'm a day trader, but the chart sure looks like it could continue. PXLW. Well, you had this high back here around $9 back in March, and it's getting some nice volume pops again, putting in higher lows. I don't have a trigger price for you. This one just goes on watch. And we'll see if we can catch a good setup in it. I could go over all the possible scenarios of what I had to look for, but we don't know how the overall market's going to open. We don't know how PXLW is going to open. So this is another one with the recent action I just want to have on a chart, and then I'll look for an entry as the day unfolds. BIOF. I had this on bounce watch because it's been super strong lately, and then you had this kind of quiet, lower volume, well, lower than Friday's big move, inside day. Let's switch to 15-minute candles. And Friday afternoon, it had some resistance. Let's talk about that real quick. It had it back here, which would have been like, what, Wednesday, and then Thursday's high, and you could just carry that straight across to Friday afternoon. So this area, which is basically around $8, was resistance. Then you had the big breakout, and it just kind of had a quiet day today, and seems to be trying to hold this 8 area. So this one goes on bounce watch, and it's the kind of stock that really moves when it moves. And so if we can get, what I'd love to see is just a narrow range for the first hour or two, and then a high of day break, and we'll be all over that, and hopefully they'll start to pile in, and we'll get a nice percentage gain. But, you know, I'm only going to trade that under the proper circumstances. Micron, MU, very, very strong stock lately. Nice bounce off the 20-day back here. Well, it hit the 20-day again, and it's 3 days lower, kind of a doji candle today. So it did gap down, took out its high, base, took out its high again, and then closed kind of quietly. So I do want to watch this one for a potential long, especially if there's market strength. Micron has been a really strong stock. I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave it at that because we'll find other stuff to trade. And that's a pretty good starting list right there. And we will talk to you tomorrow night. Have a good night.